My name is Robyn Raybould Schmidt. I'm the Director of Product Management at LexisNexis. Prior to coming to LexisNexis, I worked at Microsoft for about 6 years, where I worked on launching the Bing search engine to the US market, as well as on a social media monitoring tool called Project Looking Glass, which enabled companies to understand what was being said across them in social media. So I worked with Toyota during the recalls to help understand what people were saying on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. So my background is in search and social media, so I'm obviously very passionate about helping you understand how you can use social media to help generate business. The thing that I think is really important to understand is that social media more and more is not just a place where people are hopping online to share vacation photos or talk about what they had for lunch. More and more consumers are going online to make decisions. There was a great study by Nielsen a couple years back that talked about the fact that only 14% of people trust advertising. Inherently, we're distrustful when people are trying to sell us something. However, over 82% of people trust the recommendations of other consumers, whether that be their peer group or people that they might meet. And you'll see this a lot if you hop on Facebook. You'll see people saying, what car should I buy? What movie should I see? More and more people are turning to their peer group for advice, particularly about something like hiring an attorney, which tends to be a very high emotional involvement decision. You want to make sure that you can turn to your friends and your peers and understand that you're hiring the right person. In fact, last year, a study by Social Media Examiner talked about the fact that over 47% of people have used social media sites to influence a decision to purchase specific companies' products or services. So more and more, it's a decision channel. A lot of the firms that I talk to are very reluctant to engage in social media, but of those that have, over 56% have gained new business partnerships. A lot of that's through networking, and I'll get into how blogs can help you network. Larry talked a little bit about how LinkedIn and Martindale can help you network. 48% generated qualified leads, and 35% closed more business. So this is not just about writing nice articles that people can read and getting your business name out there. It's really a medium to get clients. This is a study about where the overall volume is, where people are speaking about lawyers online. So for those of you who have websites and who are trying to rank #1 in Google, you know that that can be one of the most challenging things to do. It's a very, very competitive term. In fact, when I was at Microsoft, the #1 most expensive term that you could buy in pay-per-click advertising was mesothelioma. We would see bids of hundreds and hundreds of dollars a click. So you can understand that this is just a really competitive space to be in terms of search. But what I think is really interesting, and what a lot of lawyers don't realize, is search engines is less than half the conversations that people are having online about attorneys. Roughly 1/3 is social media, and about 1/4 is on blogs. And even when you look into social media, as Larry kind of talked about earlier, you see that it's really spread across several forms of medium. So really, you need a comprehensive social media strategy. And what Larry talked about, how you start off with a blog and can really start off with a post and can really work your way through to other channels, that's really what it's about, making sure you get the maximum reach for the content that you're creating. The other thing that I wanted to call attention to is the sense of urgency around this. So right now, a lot of attorneys that I speak to, they're a little reluctant to get involved. They kind of know they need to get involved in social media. Maybe they have a LinkedIn page. Maybe they've made a few blog posts. The really important thing to be aware of is right now, the competition is not nearly as strong as in the search engine channels. So this gives you a perfect opportunity to start now, start a blog, start your LinkedIn account, start your Twitter account, and get your presence out there before everybody else jumps on the bandwagon. You've kind of taken the first step by being here today, but right now it's really about going out there and making sure that you act on some of these tips. LinkedIn is one of the least saturated channels as well, which is really, really interesting. And again, this is legal specific. Blogs are also have the lowest average cost per lead of any source. Keep in mind the fact that you still have to do a lot of these other things. Other forms of social media are important. Obviously, you wouldn't want to leave out search engine optimization. You need to make sure your website is found. That's half the conversation. But blogs do have the lowest average cost per lead. So it is the best bang for your buck. So when you talk about, when do I practice, keep in mind the fact that the time you're setting aside to blog is going to be extraordinarily valuable. The first objection that I often hear from attorneys who don't necessarily want to get involved in social media is, my type of client doesn't use social networking. Well, my 99-year-old grandfather Facebook messaged me yesterday. So when you think about the fact that, oh, it's only kids on social media, no one's getting involved in that, it's really shifted. The average age of a LinkedIn user is 38 years old. The average age of a Facebook user is 36. So more and more we're seeing the demographic shift of a lot of these sites, and it's becoming a channel that everyone's using. Another thing is their influencers do. I defy you, even those of you who don't have social media profiles, to say that you don't know someone who does. So any client you have, people who are in their influential circles certainly are in social media and certainly are part of that conversation. Thirdly, reporters do. So if any of you are looking to gain more media exposure and establish yourselves as more of an authority in your area of practice, reporters are now more and more going to who's the latest blogger in this topic, who's spoken about this recently. They'll oftentimes pick it up and maybe retweet it or call you for a quote on an article. And lastly, search engines do. This is a huge shift we've seen over the past year or so, that more and more search engines are looking at social media as a ranking factor in how they rank your website. Two things that have happened very recently is we see through the Microsoft Facebook integration, you can actually see where your friends have liked a web page within the search results page. So more and more they're counting those sort of things as a factor in ranking. Google has a new beta they've just released called +1, where people can actually kind of vote for a website within the search results page. So more and more we're seeing search results become social in nature. And I would anticipate, in the next year, that's going to shift considerably more so. So right now, again, it becomes more and more urgent that you establish this now in order to not lose website rankings. I don't have time for this, to the question of when do you do it. The first thing I would say is think about this a little bit differently, right? This is just a different definition of practice development. So where you would normally, get dressed, go downtown, go to an alumni networking event, go to an industry event, go meet with some of your peers or people you've worked with, try and network and generate business. This is something you can do from the comfort of your own home. You could be on an airplane teeing up articles that you can write. This is something you can do at a time that's convenient for you, and it's just practice development time. So it's really just important to kind of make that mental switch as this isn't something extra, it's just a new channel you're doing it in. And I always tell people to think of blogging as the best non-billable hour you can spend. So if you're not billing them, think of the fact that that hour is so valuably spent blogging. Another way to think about blogs and websites together, because a lot of people don't necessarily understand how to think about what role their blog plays relative to their website and how to think about the two working in concert. The way I like to think about it is your website is your public resume and your public calling card that establishes you as an authority in your area of practice. It's critical when clients go to find you that they see a clean and well-designed website. But blogs are really an area where you can establish your thought leadership, establish yourself as an authority, and really express an opinion. The good thing about blogs is they're a lot faster to update than a website. Larry's point was great. You need to keep your website fresh. Google likes that. Bing likes that. But a blog, you have the ability to quickly log in and jot off an article in response to a new search trend or something you've heard about in the industry. It's not as much of a process as overhauling your website. So they allow you to respond very quickly and to timely news and events. But lastly, it's really about creating a relationship. I think a lot of times what attorneys can forget is that sometimes it's very intimidating for clients to hire an attorney, particularly in these high emotional involvement areas where it's a divorce or something of that nature. So this really gives you an opportunity to make those clients comfortable and understand what your firm is about and really create that relationship. The nice thing about blogs is they are a two-way channel. People have the ability to comment on them. People have the ability to respond to something you said. And you have the ability to interact with people in that forum. So it really is about creating that relationship and making people know kind of the personality behind your firm.